Hello, friends. Welcome back to Love Wrestling. Spencer Love here with an individual I am very excited to chat with. Ironically enough, it is noon Mountain Time on a Wednesday, and I am chatting with one half of the Midnight Heat, Ricky Gibson, joining me. Of course, a former DEFY Tag Team Champion and an individual that has a lot of cool stuff coming up this weekend, whether we're talking about the Midnight Heat specifically or, of course, DEFY Wrestling as a whole. Before we dig into the exciting announcements with Pluto and before we dig into the Midnight Heat, man, how are you doing? How are things on your end?
I'm doing pretty well. I think it's important to note that not only am I a former DEFY Tag Team Champion, but the longest running DEFY Tag Team Champion of all time. I'm also currently one half, again, with the Midnight Heat of the United Wrestling Network Tag Team Champions. So make sure you get that right, put that in there. But other than that, I'm doing stellar. Got a big match coming up that we're pretty excited about. Ready to rock.
You betcha. And a very exciting match on top of a series of very exciting matches that you've been having for DEFY over the last little bit. We'll chat with that soon. But the big announcement coming out yesterday that DEFY is going to be airing their first live streamed event this Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern. You guys can tune in on PlutoTV to Wild Ones. How excited are you, man? Because in any of the previous interviews you've done, you've talked about DEFY being sort of one of the forefronts of professional wrestling, obviously not just in the Pacific Northwest, but throughout America. So how cool is it for you that, now that you're such a fundamental part of the promotion, that you get to be right at the forefront of what they're doing too?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I think if you look back in the history of DEFY, you look at any of the tweets or the social media, everyone talks about DEFY. Everyone talks about how being in the Washington Hall is one of the greatest experiences that there is, specifically coming to see us. And then people talk about like not being able to see it. So you see small clips online. Occasionally they'll upload a free video, but you got to subscribe to DEFY On Demand to see that, and you don't get to see it for several weeks out. And right now you're talking about live streaming on a huge platform, a free platform that anyone can watch and not have to pay, $10 a month or whatever the streaming services are now.
Yeah.
And live streaming services have been just off the chart. There's been a couple of companies recently. Prestige Wrestling has done live streams, and it's absolutely stellar to hear people watching the matches live, giving the live feedback, praising me and Eddie Pearl. It's really cool to see, and I think that DEFY is going to bring it to another level. Not only is it DEFY in Washington Hall, one of the biggest shows stacked from top to bottom of all time, but it's also free on TV.
And that's exactly it. You said you're taking it to another level, of course, with the stream itself, but they're taking it to another level even as of today with only 3 matches announced, man. You will be teaming, of course, with Christopher Daniels and Eddie Pearl, managed or assisted, I suppose, at ringside by Levi Cooper against Swerve, Nick Wayne, and Adam Brooks. Now, obviously, 3 great individually talented professional wrestlers, but I want to start by asking, how do you maybe prepare differently when you compare this match to your previous match in DEFY, the All Violence is Legal match versus Sami Al-Shaf and, of course, Eddie Kingston? Because all great talents, very different professional wrestlers.
Yeah, first of all, the fact that Eddie Kingston was even in that match was outlandish. He wasn't supposed to be there. It was supposed to be Jacob Fatu, and when he didn't show up, it clearly should have been 2-on-3, and for some reason, Eddie Kingston decided to get in there. It is what it is. You can't change the past, but what I can do is focus on the fact that we know who our opponents are this time. We don't have to guess at it. 3 different opponents, but if you look at the styles comparatively, I've beat Nick Wayne. Every time I've been in the ring with him, I beat Nick Wayne. I think that's important to note. I've never been in the ring with Swerve. I've been in the ring with Adam Brooks. Again, unfair. I think there was a lot of mistreatment going on there, but with someone like Christopher Daniels, not only the DEFY interim world champion, but someone that's been doing this for years and years. We've been talking back and forth for quite a few weeks now and kind of mentally preparing for this, getting a couple tips and tricks on what he knows. And we just go in, doing what we always do, and that's going to kick ass.
Absolutely. And I know you've talked a ton, and rightfully so, about how great Daniels is in the past. But I wanted to ask about Levi Cooper, because obviously in his previous place of employment, he was in a very different role than he's been in with DEFY so far. So maybe just take me a little bit through what it's been like to work with him specifically, and just watching the growth of him as a professional wrestler first and foremost.
It's really cool. You know, I didn't know Levi Cooper before. Man, what month was it? A couple months ago, when he hit me up and said like, "Hey, I like what you guys are doing. I'd love to chat." Started talking, and we've become really close friends. He comes out to Oregon Pro Wrestling School weekly to train with us. We get to pick his brain a little bit, and he gets to pick our brain a little bit. You know, we both have different styles and come from different backgrounds to merge and find what works best. But I think you're looking at a guy who has untapped potential. Obviously, he's been places and he's done things, but to see what he's capable now of, and to see how he's transformed from kind of this big goofy guy to someone that's really ready to get down to the nitty gritty and make a name for himself again.
How cool is it for you? Obviously, you guys, whether it's as 4 minutes of heat or whether it's as midnight heat, how cool is it that guys like that and guys with that, proverbial resume behind them are reaching out to you and are big fans of your work? That's got to be a little bit of a pride point, for lack of a better way to put it.
Absolutely. I don't really hide my pride very well. I'm very proud of how far we've come and what we've done. We've done what most people can't do. We've become the longest reigning DEFY champions. We've become the United Wrestling Network champions. We've wrestled all over and wrestled some of the best in the business. And to have people reach out to me is no surprise. Obviously, I'm proud of it, but when you start making waves, it's no surprise that people start reaching out, and you're only seeing the ones that we appreciate. You know, the Levi Coopers, the Christopher Daniels. Those are the guys that want to work with us. We get people from all over the world that want to work with us that we kind of turn our nose to or turn down because we're only aiming for the top. And I think it's great with a company like DEFY that has such a widespread name and kind of all over the world that. It's a perfect spotlight for a perfect tag team.
What do you think has allowed you guys to differentiate as far as that goes? Because, man, I'm sure you and I could sit here and just list names off that have been through DEFY for 20 minutes, and the who's who is incredible. But like you said, you're the longest reigning tag champs. Take the dirt off your shoulder on that one, man. What's allowed you guys to earn your spot as one of their premier, if not the premier tag team?
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into this, and maybe pull the curtain back a little bit. But you're talking about two guys that take this seriously. Like, this is our job. This is what we do. This is our livelihood, and we don't just show up and wrestle once a week or once a month for DEFY. We travel the world. We study tape. We talk to the best. We train with the best. And you look at all of these other teams, and you find out what they're doing, and we do what they don't do. We take advantage where we can. We bend the rules however we can to make things work for us. I mean, it's no secret that we do what we got to do, but for so long, so many people have made their names for flipping around and, jumping around, and where are they now? Versus two guys that take it serious, and we're here to wrestle. That's what we do. We're here to tag team. We don't wrestle individually. We don't go off and do our own thing. Eddie Pearl and Ricky Gibson are a tag team through and through, and that's what makes us different. Is we're not some thrown together guys. We're guys that travel the world together.
There are a lot of parallels there, and you may have already given me the answer, admittedly, but there are a lot of comparisons there, I think, with a little-known team called FTR. They've talked about the no flips, just fists, and I think that's a mentality that you guys share even in our 10 minutes of talking right now. Tonight on All Elite Programming, we're going to get Dax versus Cash for the very first time. You said you guys were a tag team through and through, but obviously they are too. Is there maybe the potential Eddie versus Ricky match somewhere in the future?
There'd have to be a lot of money on the line for us to do that, or a lot of.
There's the right answer.
A lot of pride. FTR is obviously a great tag team, one of the best to do it ever. And when you look at like what's on the line in that Owen Hart Memorial Tournament, I think there's a lot of pride for either one of them going in. There's no hard feelings, I think, coming out of that. And it would have to be something similar for Eddie and I. We have no reason to step in there and fight each other. We're not like other teams that are just going to do it for fun. We have one goal in mind, that's be tag team champions. So, there's no benefit for me beating him or him beating me. Of course, we train weekly with each other, and we spar and we do what we got to do, but that's only so we can get better and we can find the weaknesses of each other and make those better. But there's no reason for him and I to fight in front of a crowd.
Well, not only are you guys tag team partners, but you guys are former podcast co-hosts. The 4 Minute of Heat podcast was a fun listen to go through prepping for this. So is there any chance that one's coming back and coming to Apple Podcasts near you?
We had a little bit of fun in early 2020 when there was nothing to do. Like I said, this is our job. So when you have nothing else to do, you I guess you pick up a mic and make a podcast. We had a lot of fun with it. It was one of those things that we got a chance to be ourselves. I highly doubt that we'll ever pick up that podcasting mic again.
Well, let me tell you, I thoroughly enjoyed, because I'm sure yourself as a professional wrestling fan, as well as wrestler, obviously, you've gone through and listened to some podcasts and said, how the hell did they get 2 hours out of this? So I can tell you a 4-minute runtime on a pod was point blank perfect, my friend. Absolutely fantastic. Why was there the name change from 4 Minutes of Heat to the Midnight Heat then? Because, obviously the gimmick of the podcast aside, I don't really know much of the origin of that or your current name. So where'd that sort of come from and what sparked the change?
Yeah, 4 Minutes of Heat was kind of a fun insider thing between Eddie and I, kind of an inside joke. But we got serious in the middle of COVID, and we realized that, if we wanted to be the longest reigning world champions, if we wanted to be successful, we got to do things a little bit different. We had a little inspiration from a good friend of ours behind the scene. And that's where the name Midnight Heat came from. Probably no secret of where the inspiration there is from, but it's dedication to a tag team that we love and a sport that we love, and someone that was very successful, and not to piggyback off of it, but to continue a legacy there to keep things rolling.
What was it that initially drew you to tag team wrestling? Because Steve Austin, and I'm paraphrasing, but he says, if you're not in this to be the world champion, brother, then you're not in the right business. But obviously tag team wrestling not only has always been great, but I really do think has experienced a bit of an uptick over about the last year or so. What initially drew you to tag wrestling rather than singles wrestling?
Let me actually circle back to that Steve Austin quote, because if you're not in this to be the world champion, you shouldn't be in it. We are in it to be the world champions as a tag team. That's our only goal in mind. We're not here to wrestle every weekend. We're not here to, have fun with our friends. We're here to be the world champions. And I think that's a great thing to live by, a quote or inspiration or whatnot. Even as a kid watching back to some of the tag team wrestling, it was inspirational to see how two guys could work together so well and so smooth to do that. I mean, it's easy for any two guys to fight, but when you got 2-on-2 and you have to follow the rules, and there's those tiny things that make it difficult to not just be, one-on-one match, but like you have to work together, you have to be smooth. Man, it's difficult, and I like the challenge. And when you got a friend as close as Eddie and I are, it's really easy to understand how that goes. And you don't have to worry about like, oh man, what's this guy thinking? Because I know what Eddie's thinking. He knows what I'm thinking. Yeah. I fill in the gaps of where he's weak, and he fills in the gaps where I'm weak. And I mean, that's the whole fun of it all.
Well, one hell of a tag team. And of course, this Saturday night on Pluto, as they always are, you're going to get one hell of a tag team aided by Christopher Daniels. A heck of a trio coming up. You guys, as mentioned, can catch that for free at 10 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central Time. But friends, thank you for tuning into this one. And Ricky, thank you for taking the time for me today. It's a huge weekend for DEFY. And like I said off the bat, I'm probably far from the first hopping into the proverbial DMs asking to chat with, like you said, the longest reigning DEFY Tag Team Champions of all time. If people want to keep up to date with Midnight Heat, if they want to keep up to date with you specifically, your training school, or anything in between, how can they do so? Where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Rockin' Ricky G. We're also on Twitter together at _Midnight Heat. We are on, I'm on Instagram and Rockin' Ricky G, and you can find me on Facebook sporadically at Ricky Gibson. You can find Oregon Pro Wrestling School on all forms of social media, or just OregonProWrestling.com. And then, of course, keep an eye on DEFY, keep an eye on United Wrestling Network, Prestige. We're kind of all over the place right now.
It's a great time to be a pro wrestler. It's a great time to be a pro wrestling fan, especially with a team like Midnight Heat in it. Friends, I can guarantee I will be tuned in on Saturday night. So hop in my DMs if you want to chat DEFY. But until then, thank you guys for tuning in to Spencer Love Interviews. We always appreciate it. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, Spencer.